In Hong Kong, a Mr. Braithwaite goes to a competing match of military craftsmen. Among them is a man named Lee who battles a rival extensively bigger than him. Lee himself is extraordinarily gifted, constraining his adversary, Sammo Kambo Hung, to yield. Toward the finish of the match, a few of the priests present lift their hands, making an impediment that Mr. Lee flips himself over effectively, procuring their praise. Braithwaite meets later with Lee. Before Lee discussions to Braithwaite, he gives a short example as one and control to a youthful male understudy of his, showing the kid not to go after with outrage or peace. Lee likewise shows the kid how to bow appropriately to gain the appreciation of a rival. Braithwaite uncovers his motivation for the gathering. Lee has gotten a solicitation to a huge combative techniques competition on a confidential island show to an isolated man named Han. Han is associated with carrying on with work in prostitution and heroin, but no strong proof can be found connecting Han to any accursed dealings. Braithwaite believes that Lee should go to the competition and go about as a covert operative. Lee is somewhat hesitant, having not had any desire to go to the competition, but he concurs. Before Lee leaves for Han's island, he visits the elderly person of his Shaolin sanctuary, who educates Lee concerning the day his sister was killed. A significant number of Han's hooligans had come to the central area and had gone after Su Lin. However, she ably and fearlessly warded them off. She was cornered in an old distribution center. As opposed to be beaten and assaulted, she committed suicide with a shard of glass. One of the ones who drove the assault, O'Hara, Han's right-hand man, witnesses her self-destruction. The elderly person offers Lee to acquire vengeance for his sister as well as for the distinction of Shaolin. Around the time that Lee is prepared to load up Han's sampan, two different men show up. Roper, an extravagant playboy of sorts, who carries a ton of stuff, has come to the Orient to hang out from the crowd, to whom he owes cash. In his last gathering with some horde hooligans, Roper battled right out of having his leg broken to reimburse his obligation. The subsequent man is Williams, a person of color who was hassled and gone after by the police just in the wake of meeting with his master in the U.S. At the point when he was gone after, Williams retaliated, outmaneuvering the two police and getting away from in their cruiser. On the boat to Han's island, Lee and Roper both bet on a supplicating mantis match. Roper leans toward the bigger of the two bugs, while Lee blessings the more modest. Lee wins a small bunch of money on the match. While Lee takes in the breeze from the harbor, a forceful invitee named Parsons attempts to irritate him after stumbling a kid conveying a heap of natural product. He gets some information about his battling style. Lee responds it is the craft of battling without battling. Parsons jeers, attempting bring Lee into a match. Lee recommends that they take a little dinghy to a close-by island and match near the ocean. At the point when Parsons anxiously descends to the boat, Lee delivers it from the sampan and allows it to float out behind, clutching the rope and requesting Parsons not to pull himself in or he'll set him hapless on the sea. Lee then hands the rope to the crew members, who are incredibly entertained. On the island, the travelers see many other military craftsmen rehearsing on monster courts. That evening, everybody goes to a luxurious blowout. Han shows up, offering welcome to his visitors, lauding them for their expertise and saying thanks to them for joining in. He has a few ladies with him who go about as his tip-top private watchmen. He throws a few bits of organic product in the air while the ladies hit them with little darts, tossed with pinpoint precision. Lee gets one of them. After supper, Han's leader, Tanya, carries young ladies to Roper and Williams' Roper solicitations to go through the night with Tanya herself. The lady Williams is with cautions him not to step outside his room when Williams needs to get some natural air. At the point when Tanya visits Lee, he demands the young lady who tossed the dart in the apple he'd got at the feast. Lee meets with the dart hurler, Mei Ling, who is really a covert operative sent by Braithwaite preceding enlisting Lee. She educates him that she's figured out very little concerning Han's criminal operations aside from that numerous young ladies who come to the island vanish. The following morning, Han goes to the first couple of rounds of his competition. He finds that Roper and Williams battle astoundingly well. Roper lays a couple of wagers on Williams that result and has Williams set down additional wagers. The two success a significant measure of money. Lee later escapes his room. Dodging Han's watchman, he finds a covered-up hidden entryway that prompts a few underground loads where Han has been cooking heroin. He quells a couple of Han's gatekeepers and is compelled to withdraw when the chance of being found turns out to be excessively perfect. As he sneaks back to his room, Williams spots Lee climbing a close-by wall. Han shows up and reports that one of his visitors had been beyond their room after time limit and that a portion of his gatekeepers were gone after. He has his most prominent contender, Violo, kill them all as discipline. Han later makes an impression on Williams to meet him in his quarters. Roper is dubious and advises Williams to keep an eye out. Back at the competition, Roper beats a couple of rivals. Lee is called up to battle O'Hara, one of Han's heroes. With the memory of his dead sister to direct him, Lee grounds a few lightning-quick hits on O'Hara. O'Hara out of nowhere snatches one of Lee's feet with Han woofing at him to let Lee go. Lee counterattacks with a horrendous reverse somersault kick to O'Hara's jawline that thumps him back. To complete him, Lee conveys a fierce kick to O'Hara's chest, thumping him into a couple of seats and a portion of the observers. Angered, O'Hara snatches 2 containers, breaking them and waving the necks as weapons. Lee thumps the containers from O'Hara's hands and kicks him to the ground. Lee then, at that point, handles a lethal catastrophe for O'Hara's throat. Han is bothered, let the group know that he has been shamed by his boss, and he leaves the court quietly. In his gathering with his host, Williams is lauded by Han for his capacities, however they are irregular. Han makes reference to that Williams battles more for greatness than concordance, yet Williams disregards Han's perspective, saying he battles to look great. Han then blames him for going after his watches the earlier evening. Williams is promptly enraged, requesting that he be permitted to leave the island. Han denies and several his hooligans assault Williams, who routs them without any problem. Han himself takes up a battle position and the two battle around the crowdedness of Han's office. At the point when Williams attempts to kick Han in the hand, he mysteriously harms his foot. Han makes use lastly thrashes Williams, killing him with a solitary blow. He eliminates the glove from his left hand, uncovering that it's made of strong bronze. Han later meets with Roper, showing him his extreme home. One room is loaded up with glass showcases and Eastern weapons. In one case are the bones of a human hand. Han merrily says the cut-off hand is a gift. He brings Roper into a room with a guillotine, putting own feline under the cutting edge. He lets Roper know that genuine devotion is having the option to kill at demand, yet Roper will not pull the delivery rope that would kill the feline. Han pulls the rope, which initiates a stage that brings down them into the lower levels of Han's home. Down there Roper sees Han's heroin lab and the whores and detainees he holds. The vast majority of the ladies have empty looks, as though tranquilized. Han makes Roper a liberal proposal to join his activity, however Roper declines when Han shows him the collection of Williams, looming over a profound pool. Roper is noticeably unglued about seeing his dead companion and Han has the body dropped into the pool. Roper is taken prisoner. Expecting to research further and to find a radio to receive a message out to Braithwaite, Lee invades the lower level again that evening, getting a Cobra set at the secret entrance to drive away any eavesdroppers. Lee tracks down his direction to the radio room, utilizing the Cobra to drive the radio administrators out. He receives his message out by transmit. Waiting for the radio administrators to leave the room, he gets in to use their material. While holding the snake with his feet, he is sending a telegram message. The agent copied the message to transfer to the police. At the point when he's found by Han's watchmen, he fights them, beating them with his ability to battle and their own weapons. Subsequent to dispatching the last gathering, he races into one more chamber, however is caught by shutting metal entryways. Above him, Han lets him know that his battle with his gatekeepers was remarkable and that he was intending to enroll him. Lee, in any case, has no longing and permits himself to be taken prisoner. The following morning on the competition courts, Han orders Lee and Roper to be set in opposition to one another, however the two of them won't battle. Han menacingly says he'll track down rivals for them to battle, beginning with setting Bolo in opposition to Roper. Bolo conveys the battle for his potential benefit for a couple of moments until Roper fights back and terrains a hard kick to Bolo's groin, removing all the battle from him. Rankled, Han arranges his men to go after both Roper and Lee. They think of themselves as effortlessly crushed. All in the meantime, Mei Ling liberates Han's detainees, guiding them out to the competition courts where they draw in Han's men. Lee continues on Han, who removes his phony clench hand and replaces it with a pot extremity. Lee fights him, getting a couple of cuts, yet can incapacitate Han when the medication ruler has his paw stuck on a table. Han runs off to his home with Lee right behind. In his prize room, he takes a connection for his wrist, contained a few sharp edges. The two square off. Han can cut Lee a few times and uses a lance from his munitions stockpile, but Lee can beat him back, constraining him to withdraw behind a secret entryway his lance becomes caught in. Lee goes into the room, finding it that it's altogether walled with mirrors. He moves gradually and intentionally, looking for Han. Han strikes at Lee a couple of times, however Lee is at last ready to figure out a successful methodology. He starts breaking the mirrors around him, killing Han's benefit. He at long last finds Han and gives him a horrible kick to the chest, piercing him on the lance he attempted to use against Lee. Roper sits on the competition court, depleted after the fight with Han's men. He looks aside and sees that Tanya is dead. Lee shows up back at the court and they trade a splitting look. The last shot of the film is of Han's hook caught in the table. Thank you for watching. Feel good till next time, and don't forget to subscribe for more. Leave us a comment on a movie you would like us to recap. Thank you.